We talked a lot on this show about how the super rich and billionaires have made a killing over this pandemic. Um, the rich have done well; they've done very, very well. But there's another group that is doing well, and it shouldn't surprise you that it's politicians. And can we pull up this first graph here, Matt?
Yes.
This was a bit that was put out by an interesting group called Unusual Whales, which sort of is monitoring what's going on with stock trading with people in Congress. And this is a list of folks who in 2021, just this last year, who beat the stock market average, right? You see at the top is congratulations, Georgia's Austin Scott, Brian Mast, French Hill, John Curtis, Lil Dan Crenshaw, holding up the rear of the Republicans, followed
Now,
very, very closely by Miss Nancy Pelosi.
Miss Nancy Pelosi herself. Now, David, your understanding when people beat the market, is that something that is, possible over time to do with regularity without, say, like something like inside information?
It'd be pretty damn hard. And the reason that not just this group, but other people actually watch people like Nancy Pelosi very, very closely is because she has a very long history of doing extremely well on the stock market and making pretty puzzling calls that would be difficult for somebody just sort of watching the market as an outsider. If you could pull up this piece in Jackman by Ryan Zigraff, which is who is by the way, he writes for Jackman but also runs a really great site also called Third Rail, which you should definitely be checking out. He breaks down basically why day traders are so obsessed with Nancy Pelosi. And it's one of these things where the reason that people are very obsessed with her is because it's a pretty damn sure bet. If you scroll down, we can go to this bit that starts to understand how Pelosi became a Wall Street mega influencer. Just look at the numbers. Since last year, she and her husband, Paul Pelosi, traded over $50 million in assets with an annualized return at 69% as of October, according to an estimate from the Nancy Pelosi Portfolio Tracker. That's higher than Buffett, George Soros, Cathie Wood, and other star investors of the past. Members of Congress aren't required to provide an exact figure for the value of their assets, but Pelosi's wealth grew by an estimated $16.7 million in 2020, just as millions of Americans fell into poverty and struggled to make ends meet during the COVID-19 pandemic. So far, 2021 is shaping up to be even nicer for Nancy. And as we noted in that first piece with the Unusual Whales, yes, 2021 was a very, very good time for her. This is the important bit right here. This is where, when Nancy Pelosi, we played this at the very top of the show, when she says that she does not think that members of Congress should be restricted in their ability to trade, other than just the kind of very basic reporting requirements. It's very telling that she says we live in a free market system, we live in a capitalist system, because she wants to, one, not only be able to fatten up her bank account, but she likes the role that she has as somebody who has a lot of influence with these companies as a member and a leader in Congress, but also somebody who has vast amounts of money invested in them. This bit right here is really critical. Social media users started to take sharper notice of her trading prowess in July when Paul exercised a call option move that let him buy 4,000 shares of Google's parent company Alphabet, right before the House Judiciary Committee voted on antitrust regulations for Silicon Valley monopolists. Ka-ching! The move meant $5.3 million more for the Pelosi's to add to their estimated $100 million plus fortune. At that time, top Democrats, Pelosi included, squawked about the need for new federal regulations to hold the big four, Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, to account. Yet they've dragged their feet on bills to strengthen privacy and encourage competition in the months since then. Meanwhile, more than two-thirds of Pelosi's stock transactions since 2020 have included those tech giants. I mean, simply put, in any other context, I feel like most people would be able to call that what it is, which is insider trading. It's acting with particular interests, and you can have the theater, right? You can talk about how you're wanting to put more regulation on these companies, but if you start to have a vested financial interest in the growth and those successes of those companies, that puts you in direct conflict with your responsibility to American democracy, to American voters. And it's something that just does not seem to bother people like Nancy Pelosi, who is not alone in the Democratic Party, by the way, in trading. Obviously, the Republicans sort of outdo them. Um, but she is very happy to be leading the pack when it comes to profiting from her position and her influence, and most importantly, her knowledge as to what Congress is going to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, it there's nothing I find more alienating than this sort of like engaging in this passive income. This is the free market where you're basically just
Mm-hmm.
betting on the actual real world and getting huge returns on that just for like owning stock, just for owning stuff. And that's the right way you're supposed to do it. That's the way, like if you get a little bit of money spent, like there's something more depressing when I've heard like different people come into money because of a death or something like that, and it's like the responsible thing to do with this is to start gambling it into
Mm-hmm.
and trying to teach myself like how to pick winners. And of course, the responsible thing is like and I've never had the money to do this, but like just put into index funds. But now it's like we have all these other options, like cryptocurrencies or just actual this sort of thing where it's well, I'm going to follow what Nancy Pelosi does, and that's actually like from a survival standpoint, that's actually a decent strategy to be following, and it's really disgusting.
I just wanted to, we like to root ourselves in history here on Left Reckoning, and I wanted to note a quote from Eugene Debs, which I think, it speaks much more to the kind of absurdity of our system and to in the ways that certain people are able to, enjoy massive amounts of wealth without really working for it, more so than necessarily the kind of political corruption I think that Pelosi's engaged in. But this is a great quote from Eugene Debs that he said actually before he was going to be brought into prison for opposing the imperialist war, World War One. I'm opposing a social order in which it is possible for one man who does absolutely nothing that is useful to amass a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars, while millions of men and women who work all the days of their lives secure barely enough for a wretched existence. And that's Eugene Debs right there.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be the case that you have to that's the response. It just depresses me that that's the responsible thing is we got to bet in instead of just assuring people like retirements. Like what like it's like the Reese Witherspoon tweet about how everyone's going to have a digital wallet and NFT and a parallel digital identity. Are you planning for this? And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
You shouldn't be.
yeah, but good on certain members of Congress who are saying that we should actually stop this thievery and just blatant credibility busting. We'll see. I read a book called Parliament Inc. that the UK is right there with us as far as just how this stuff is basically bought and sold. These politicians are bought and sold.
Yeah. No, I mean it's an old tale. I mean, sometime later, there's a really great Engels quote about the American party system, how it's just sort of like two competing cartels trying to use the office to profit themselves and their friends. And it's unfortunately just as true as it was in 1890 as it is today.
But,
Um,
and I know we got to get to Danny, but like the thing is like when you see people tell a story about like, oh, I could have invested in Google stock back in this year and I could have this much money. Like what people like have divorced money from like, oh, this means I can like compel labor to the tune of like several millions of dollars just
mhm.
for having made the right bet. And it's not, it shouldn't be something that people applaud.
No, certainly not. And again, the reason people are following it is because it's a pretty sure bet because she has information that other people don't. But yeah, I think that you're 100% right on the morality of it.